is on background and not for direct attribution. For comment about the information presented today, please contact press@ed.gov. Now, a few housekeeping notes. All questions during the presentation can be provided using the Q&A functionality in Microsoft Teams Live. At the conclusion of the webinar, we will share some of the questions and give our presenter an opportunity to provide additional information. And that presenter today is yours truly. For those who can't join this webinar in real time today, it will be recorded and available on our new YouTube channel at FSA Outreach within 24 hours. You can request the PDF version of the PowerPoint slides on our YouTube channel as well. Closed captioning is available by clicking on the bottom right side of your screen where you will see a gear icon. Click on it, and then click on the subtitles on, and then click on subtitle option, and there will be a list of languages that include Spanish, French, Chinese, Hindu, and Arabic. Please choose your preferred language to listen to the webinar. Now that we have taken care of the logistics, let's begin. Welcome to the webinar, How to Complete the 2024-25 FAFSA form as a dependent student. Now, to get started, the first place that you should go is studentaid.gov. When you arrive at the location, you're going to see a series of informational sections and tabs. We really welcome you to peruse the website, check out the most up-to-date information as it relates to federal financial aid and our federal student loan programs, as well as our tools and resources geared towards students and their families. To get started with the FAFSA form, you wish to come right over here. You're going to see the highlight. You can highlight as soon as you hover your cursor over logged in or create an account. Once you click either or, typically in this case, we're going to start out with the login. You're going to be asked to log in. A couple of different things before you get started with the FAFSA form is that you should have an FSA ID in order to continue, complete, and sign the form itself. Having an FSA ID would allow you to also create a studentaid.gov account and get access to information as it pertains to the loans or grants or other federal financial aid that is dispersed to the account on your behalf. Now, as you come across and you log in, if you already have a login, that's perfectly fine. You go ahead and enter your email, your phone, or username, or your FSA ID username, and the password, and you can hit log in. If you forgot your username, you want to come down here on the left-hand side below the login button and select Forgot My Username. Then you will be presented with the options of entering your email and or your phone number, and you can also enter in your password as well and continue the process that way to retrieve your username. Or you can come to Forgot My Password and do the same, and it'll ask you a series of questions, and you'll be able to access reset your password from that point. If you forgot both of them, please feel free to contact us to reset your account. If you do not have an FSA ID, then you wish to come down to create an account where you'll be able to create an account and select your username, create a username using your information of your name, date of birth, email address, and mailing address as well. And we'll continue on to let you know how that populates onto your FAFSA form and why completing that information is very important. We do have a new term for the 24-25 FAFSA form, and that is contributor. All parties required to provide information onto the FAFSA form is identified as a contributor and is required to have an FSA ID. Each contributor should have their own FSA ID. Now, with that said, we're going to leverage and utilize the FAFSA prototype for the purpose of this session. This is just a sample prototype. The functionality on the site is limited, and so we're going to talk to several different portions of the FAFSA form as it relates to what will be the next step after that point. So we've created a false account, a sample account using RayAtran, and we're ready into the password that we already pre-populated. So we're going to come in here and hit log in. Once the student logs in, they're going to be able to see a dashboard with but a number of information that is really geared to inform them what they should expect, how to prepare, and additional information around federal financial aid and the programs. Now, first, they can either start a new form, and that will be for the 24-25 FAFSA form. But if they're already enrolled in school or comparable programs, dual enrollment, things like that, then they can go ahead and come here and select start or edit a 2023 FAFSA form. Now, that's only if they're directed by the financial aid department in those particular cases. They can also find out what is the state deadline for the state they reside in by selecting the school year and their state of residence. We have additional information as it pertains to preparing for the FAFSA form. For example, who should complete, how long would it take, and what does the student and or the parents need to gather in order to be prepared. We also have a YouTube video on what is the FAFSA form itself and how colleges and career schools utilize the information to determine your student aid. And additional questions we do have located at the bottom of the screen, as well as our announcement page, where we also welcome you to find out the most recent up-to-date information as it pertains to the 24-25 form. Now, we're going to go ahead and get started to complete the 24-25 form. So we're going to come up to the top of our screen and we're going to select new form. When we're coming in, we're going to be presented with the questions. I am starting a FAFSA form as A. Now, for the 24-25 FAFSA form, the parent can start the FAFSA form on the behalf of the student. They can enter their information. They can navigate and enter their own information. Also, the student will still need to come back in and sign. Now, it's important for the nature of this particular session, we will be completing the form as a student. So we're going to come in and complete and start the process as the student. So you select the student and then we hit continue. Next, we're going to be presented with 4 different sections. These are informational web pages. So as we hit continue to navigate through, is informing us of different areas such as the video, as well as what is a contributor, how do you invite a contributor, and we'll get into that in a moment. But also we'll be presented with information as to what to expect. Generally, this will take 1 hour, but we're going to navigate a little quicker. Now, also to note, as it relates to inviting a contributor, the 24-25 form is a role-based experience, which means the student is going to navigate through the process, looking at their information. The parent's going to navigate through their process, looking at their information. And if parent number 2 needs to be invited, they're going to see their information and they're going to experience it individually. So in this experience, we're navigating for this first half, for the first third of the experience as the student. So in the 4th section is going to give information about what to expect after submitting the form. And this is very helpful information because this is a frequently asked question to us as to what to expect after the form has been submitted and then processed, and what do I expect to receive in order to navigate to the next step. So this is a good information to have into your need to know. So after we had a chance to digest and learn the information, we're going to start the FAFSA form. First, as I stated before, when you complete and create an FSA ID, the information that you have provided is going to be pre-populated into this area. This gives you an opportunity to look at your name, your mailing address, and make sure all the information that you see on your screen is correct. Again, for the nature of this session, this is a sample individual. This individual is not really real. So we're going to go ahead and hit continue. Next, we're going to ask you for your state of legal residence and the date that the student became a legal resident. Now, if you don't know the exact day, that's perfectly fine. You can also estimate the month and the year. So in this case, we're going to say this student became a resident in August of 2003. It doesn't have to be exact if you do not know it. Just use your best estimation. So you want to come here and hit continue. Now you'll be asked to provide consent and approval. Providing consent and approval allows us to transmit your federal tax information onto the FAFSA form. If you decline to provide consent and approval, you, the student, will be ineligible for federal financial aid. Now, every contributor needs to provide consent and approval, which means parent one, parent two also needs to provide the consent and approval so long as they are required contributors onto the form. So as you see, when we're navigating down, it's a information that is very helpful and will let you know exactly how we are planning to use this information and why it's important for you to understand before you provide consent and approval as to what it really means. So we come down to the further and we provide an accordion style with information and tabs. And so we welcome you to read it over before you select approve, but keep in mind, if you do decline, then you'll be ineligible for federal financial aid. In this case, the student is going to hit approve, and now they'll navigate into the FAFSA form itself. There are 5 sections within the form, and we're going to slowly navigate to each, and I'm going to give you some helpful tips as it relates to completing the information as you see on your screen. So first up is going to ask you questions pertaining to your personal circumstances. The first thing is that it's going to ask the student of their marital status. Are they single? Are they married? Are they remarried, separated, divorced, or widowed? Again, this session is geared to a dependent student. So we're going to go select single, never married. And then we're going to come down to the blue button on the lower right-hand side and select continue to navigate to the next question. We're next going to ask about their college or career plans. Are they entering school as a first-year freshman? Are they entering this academic year as a second year or a sophomore, or are they a junior or senior or pursuing a master's degree or doctoral degree? Now, because we're coming in our first year, we're going to hit first year freshman. But if you're tuning in and you're a college student, current college student, and you're already your college grade level is of a sophomore, junior, or a senior, then you just hit one of these options here. But for the nature of this particular session, this student is going to be a first year freshman. And then you want to make sure you respond to the second question. When they're beginning this year, July 1st of 2024, will they have their first bachelor's degree? If they're going to be graduating prior to that date, then they hit yes. If they're not going to have their first bachelor's degree or before that date, then you want to hit no. So you can continue. So next question is going to ask a little bit more details as it pertains to their dependency status. This is important in identifying whether a student is an independent student, where we do not need information about the parent one and parent two, or where they're going to be titled a dependent student, where we will need information for parent one and possibly parent two. So as we scroll down the questions here, there's going to be a number of questions that if they enter or check the box yes to, they will be considered an independent student. But again, we're talking to a student, or we're navigating this process as a student, as a dependent student. So they're going to hit none of these apply and hit continue. Our next question is going to dive a little bit more deeper into whether or not this student is an independent or dependent student. Now, we just keep in mind, we will have a session tomorrow at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time as we're going to navigate this process or this form as an independent student. So you're going to see me a little bit more flexible with these questions as it pertains to those independent questions on the session tomorrow. So feel free to tune in to learn more how to navigate this form as independent students during that session. For this session, the question as is asking for a student, if a student is an unaccompanied homeless youth or at risk of being homeless youth, you have to keep this in mind. This information has to be verified. So typically, the students can get verification through their financial aid office or their homeless liaison in their school district. So this student is not an unaccompanied homeless youth or at risk of being homeless. So we're going to hit no and continue. And then we're going to ask questions about their unusual circumstance. Now, during this process, you might hear the different terms of unusual circumstances versus special circumstance. The good way to determine what those mean, special means financial. So if you hear special circumstance, that's associated with the financial circumstance of the family, whether it's the student and or the parent. When you hear unusual, then we're meaning with the environment that the student is coming out of. What's going to prohibit the student from getting information from the parent? Are they at risk at doing so if they make contact with the parent? Do we have a documented status of a refugee or asylum status from their parents, or are they a victim of human trafficking? These are things that we're asking that if a student indicates yes to, they can be determined to be an independent student. But for the nature of this session, we're going to hit no, because this student is a dependent student. Next, we're going to ask questions more about the direct unsubsidized loan only. But before we do that, I just want to point out that after you complete the section of your dependency, we will make a determination as to what their dependency status is. And in this case, the student has been deemed a dependent student, and we will need information from parent 1 and or parent 2 if they're required to be a contributor onto the form itself. Now, if a student has been deemed a dependent student and they do not wish to take out or move or include parental information, then they will only be eligible for the unsubsidized loan only, the direct unsubsidized loan. Now, the direct unsubsidized loan is a loan that once it's been dispersed on the student's behalf to the institution, that's when interest starts to build while the student is enrolled in school. When the student is enrolled in school, typically they do not have to pay that loan back until 6 months after they either stop going or have graduated. That's typically when the loan becomes due. Now, there are circumstances where students have to pay while they're enrolled in school, or if they do not wish to, or if they wish to pay while they're enrolled in school, to be considered for loan repayment programs. There are steps that they can follow to that. We welcome you to check out our pages and articles on studentaid.gov to learn more about that. So in this particular case, the student's going to hit no and hit continue. Now we're going to ask additional information about their parents. Are they married? This is a very big question because of the new term contributor. We're trying to identify who is to be considered a contributor on this form. Now, when we're looking at it and you're trying to make that determination, you can do it on 3 ways. First, identify the dependency status. Is the student a dependent or independent student? Okay. The next is going to be on marital status. Now, when we reach that level, we have to identify, is this parent, are they only required to have one parent? In the case that you have a parent that is single, a parent that is widowed, now we're just looking at, okay, who's providing more than 51% of financial support? If the parent 1 is single and you do not need, and they do not live with parent number 2, then we're going to enter information on parent number 1, so long as that parent is providing more than 51% of support. Now, in a case where you have parent 1 and parent 2 that are not married, but they're living together, then we're going to need information from both parents, and both parents are going to be required to have an FSA ID. In the case of widowed, again, we're going to only need one parent. Now, I know that was a lot, so take a moment for that, okay? Because the next stage in that is the tax filing status, okay? Now we're going to settle in on parents that are married. If you are married and you're married filing jointly, we only need one parent to be identified as the contributor. Now, if you are married filing separately, then both parents will need an FSA ID because both parents have been identified as a contributor. But let's navigate to see how that looks on the form itself. Now, let's start out with single. Now, the first question is, are they married? No, they're not married. But do they live together? Because if they live together, then we're going to need information from both parents. Both parents are going to need to have an FSA ID because both parents have been identified as a contributor, okay? Now, if they do not live together, then we're going to ask who's providing more financial support over the course of 12 months. We are not going to make that determination. The student and their family will be making that determination. So once that has been identified, yes, one more parent, then we're going to say, did that parent remarry? If they say no, then okay, you're going to provide that information for this parent only. If they say yes, then it's going to be that parent and the step parent, okay? Now, in a case where, let's say, for example, we're going to back up a little bit, and we're going to say they are married. Then we're going to need to provide information for both parents. You see how that worked there? Where if you're single, if you're married, the who is required and to be identified as a contributor will be placed on it, and we help you sort of figure that part out. For the nature of this session, we're going to navigate as a married family, particularly because I want you to see how we're asking questions for parent number 1 and parent number 2, and also to let you know exactly where parent number 2 won't be needed in a case of a single parent. It's going to hit continue, and then we're going to ask you to invite your parents to the FAFSA form. So here's where the student is going to come in and enter information for the parent. We're going to say that this parent was born in 1965. And of course, we're going to create fictitious social security numbers. We're going to also create a false email address. And when you're entering your email address, you don't have to worry about any capitalizations too. See, this is parent number 1 and parent number 2. So I'm going to say this parent was born in 1967. I think that was a great year. I wasn't born then, but I heard it was a great year. So I want to keep that here. And in this case, we have John Doe and Jane Doe, and we have both of their email addresses entered. Now, when we scroll down, we can send the invite, and student can continue inputting information onto that FAFSA form. So we're going to hit select. So once the student has done that, then they will see on their screen invite sent to John Doe, invitation sent to Jane Doe. Now, I want to take a moment here to also introduce that the fact that we understand that there's an issue on the form itself, where if students are trying to send an invitation to a parent without a social security number. Now, we do have a workaround that we just released today. So if you are a student who is a U.S. citizen or national or an eligible non-citizen, and you have a parent without a social security number, if you really need to submit of this form because you have a pressing deadline, whether it's from a state deadline, whether it's from an institutional deadline, visit studentaid.gov and read our guidance, our 9 steps around submitting the form with a parent without a social security number. Again, visit studentaid.gov to find out more information and how to navigate. Now you want to come down here and hit continue. And next question we're going to ask is of the student demographics. Now, when you select continue, all of these questions are optional. This will not impact the calculation of the student aid index, which is an index number that schools and federal government and state governments use to determine how much need-based aid students are eligible for. Now, when the student scrolls down, they're able to select their gender. In this case, we're going to select female and hit continue. They'll also be able to select additional options, additional information. We're going to say that this student is Puerto Rican. The student's race is Black or African, and we're going to select African American. Now they can select additional options as well. As you can see, Native American or Alaska Native or Native Hawaiian or other Pacific Islander, and we're just going to select a random one. Or if they choose not to answer, they can certainly do so as well and hit continue. The next step is going to be a very important question. Is the student a U.S. citizen or national, or are they an eligible non-citizen? It's important to answer this question because only U.S. citizens or nationals or eligible non-citizens are eligible for federal financial aid. Now, if they are not either, you might want to contact your state higher education authority to find the programs that may be aligned with your citizenship status. Now, keep this in mind. You're going to go ahead and select for this particular student. She's a U.S. citizen. You're going to hit U.S. citizen and select continue. Now, also, we ask questions about the parent education status, whether they attended or did not attend, or they completed as well. Or if they don't know, it's perfectly fine. Again, this question is not going to impact the calculation on the SAI. So in this case, we'll say for her, neither parent attended college. And then we ask a question about if the parent was killed in the line of duty, that's more aligned with the events of 9/11, or if they were performing official duties as a public safety officer. In this case, the student did not, so they can come here and hit continue. And then we ask their high school completion status. Did they complete a high school diploma or a GED, or were they homeschooled, or none of the above? Typically, students that are coming in for the first time have their high school diploma, but again, if they do not, that's perfectly fine. They just come in and select the appropriate field, either GED or homeschool. And hit continue. Now they're going to enter information about their high school. I want to repeat that this is to have limited functionality, and this is a prototype. And so we have pre-selected a couple different options. And as we're going in, we're just going to select different cities and high school names to sort of flesh that out. Let's get rid of that one. We're going to choose Albuquerque, and we're going to hit search. As you see here, that selection popped up. So the person is able to select it. This functionality on the prototype does not have all the schools. So if someone's coming in and you're from a different state, different city, different high school, or academy, some schools go from 12 to 12, K to 12, or 6 to 12, and things like that. You can come in and either find a selection, or you can come down and enter your school manually. If you enter your school manually, it'll be put into the system. We'll try to match it up with the schools that are located in the system within the Department of Education. So we come down here and hit continue, and we're going to ask you to confirm your high school, and you come down and hit continue. Just want to make sure you confirm it. If you need to edit it, you can come up and do so right here. And hit continue. And then we're going to ask you information about your finances. And I'm speaking to you, the student, because when you're coming through this, the 24-25 FAFSA form is a role-based experience. So information that or questions that we're asking you is pertaining to you, the student. And we ask you of your parents, we're asking the parents that are your parents or parent. Now, when we're asking information about your taxes, when you provided consent and approval, that automatically allowed us to transfer information, if it existed, from the IRS onto your FAFSA form. If there's no information to be transferred because of age, because you didn't work, that's perfectly fine. Because when you come to this section, we're going to ask you additional information, and if other information is warranted, like you need to enter information manually, those questions will be presented on this screen. So for this student, they're going to enter that they don't have any IRA rollover. They don't have a pension. If you have a pension at the age of 18, you're doing something great. Now, if you have any type of college grants, scholarships, or AmeriCorps benefits that were reported to the IRS as income, then you want to make sure that you enter that into this field here. Otherwise, you can enter 0 if you do not have any, including the foreign earned income exclusion. So this student didn't have any of that. So they're navigating to the next section. In this area, they're looking at this question as to what is the total cash savings and checking in accounts as to what they have in total. Now, good practice when you're entering information here is that you want to make sure that you're completing it on the day of. And so you're not projecting or estimating and things like that. So this student doesn't have a checking account, so they're going to hit 0. When we're looking at the net worth of investments, including real estate, we're looking at the appraisal in terms of real estate, the appraised value minus your liabilities. That can be mortgages, that can be expenditures and things like that. And that would be your net. Now we're looking at everything other than the home the student lives in. Okay, so keep that in mind. So if you have an investment property, look, what is their appraised value on that? Minus the liabilities equal the net worth. The same thing comes for your businesses. The business valuation minus liabilities equal the net worth, including investment farms. So this student doesn't have any of that. And they're going to come in here and select continue. Now, the fourth section is going to be on colleges. We students starting for this academic year, for this FAFSA year, students can select up to 20 different colleges, universities, or career schools. We advise students, as you're considering schools, whether you've been accepted into, enrolled into, we encourage you to go ahead and select up to 20 and put those 20 on the FAFSA form so the schools have an opportunity to be able to provide you a financial aid offer. Now, a student could come in and select any school. We're going to select that the student wants to go from New York to California. They're going to select any type of school, and they're going to select the city where the school is located in and the school name, and they're going to hit search, and they're going to get a list of schools that are associated or close to that particular school. Also, if they don't enter the school name and they just enter the city, they'll be presented with schools in that city. If they just enter the state, they'll be presented with schools in that state. So for the nature of this, we're going to hit the top 3. And that's when, of course, students, you can add up to 20. So because you can add up to 20, once that information is processed by us and it is confirmed to be fully processed, we will send the school records down to the school at the school that you have indicated, and they will begin proceeding on with their process. And we're going to hit continue. Now, you do have a chance to look at the schools. If you want to remove a school, if you want to go back and select more schools, you can go ahead and do so as well. These are all the schools that you want to receive your information. If a school is not listed, even if you get accepted into, you start to enroll in, they will not receive the information until you come back to your FAFSA form and be able to update that for them to receive the information. And you want to come down and hit continue after you're all said and done. Now, from the student's experience, they can come in and look at different information that they have put onto the FAFSA form. So with all of this information, they can see all the information that is pertaining to them, okay, when they're filling out this particular form. Now, after we navigated to it for it to be processed, they can always come back in and check out the information, everything that was placed onto the form. But during the nature, when they're completing it for this time, they'll be able to see the questions that they answered. They can also see the colleges that they inputted. And again, if they want to come back and add more, they can click on that particular tab and selection and go back and do so. Now they can just come down and enter that they're going to proceed on with their signature. When they look at the bottom section, they'll be able to just review who they are sharing this information, who has been identified as a contributor. And this is parent 1 and parent 2. So they can go ahead and hit continue. When they hit continue, then they will come down and sign the form, as long as after they have read all the text above it, letting them know that they're not going to be sharing this information, that they are who they say they are, and so forth. And they can come in and sign the form. And then the student is done. But wait, because this is a dependent student. Now, I want to show you exactly what a parent, that's who I'm speaking with, will see after a student has completed or invited you as a contributor. Now, you should get an email into your inbox that looks a little bit like this. If you do not receive that email, you can log into studentaid.gov using your FSA ID, scroll down to the bottom of the screen and start on your dashboard and begin the process. However, if you do see it in your inbox and you see a similar email to this, then you can go ahead and log in. I want to note something, however. You have about 45 days to enter your information onto the FAFSA form. And if you surpass that 45 days, the student will need to re-invite you. So you're going to go ahead and hit logged in. You're going to log in similar to like when we came in as a student. John Doe was the first parent that the student has identified as a contributor. That's why John Doe is up first. So we're going to go ahead and hit log in. And you're going to let you know that Rhea needs the information, needs your help to enter information. If the parent declines to provide information, then the student will only be eligible for the unsubsidized loan. In this case, the student is going to come in and accept, and they're going to hit continue. And the parent is basically stating you're contributing information to this FAFSA form. Just want to make that known that that anyone that's been identified as a required contributor outside of the student is only contributing information. If you want to provide financial contributions to the student's account at the college, university, or career school that the student is enrolled in, then that's between you and the student and the family. But this FAFSA form does not require you to be financially liable for the student. So keep that in mind as it pertains to that. Now, we do have additional information as it pertains to the FAQs, or also known as your frequently asked questions, as it pertains to being a contributor onto the FAFSA form. You're going to hold it, hit continue. And that's very similar to when we were navigating this process as the student information, so like a video, being a contributor, what to expect, and also what to know after the form has been submitted. That is helpful information that as you're learning this process for the first time, we want to make sure that we are presenting it to you and help you navigate. So you go ahead and hit continue. And then you have to be asked to just review the information that you have already inputted. Again, this is information that's coming pre-populated, so all you're doing is just double checking. Make sure you watch out for spelling errors, making sure you clear up any spaces, decimal points, things like that. So if you're going in this process for the first time, making sure that you see your mailing address is LN versus Lane, you want to make those corrections and have it lined up with your FSA ID. Come down and hit continue, and then you'll be able to provide consent and approval. Again, this is providing consent and approval to have the financial federal tax information transferred from the IRS onto the form itself. And you want to scroll down here after you have read what it means to be, what it means to provide consent and approval, and hit approve. If you decline it, again, it hinders the student's ability to obtain federal financial aid or be eligible for federal financial aid. Then we come to optional parent parental demographic information. Now, when we say optional, part of it is very important for you to complete, because a lot of these fields are optional, but they do have consequences if you don't complete or provide a value in the field. In this case, remember when early in this session when we covered dependency, marital, tax filing status. Now, in this case, this parent has been identified as married, and they're going to when they select married, then the parent number 2 is going to be required to provide information if their tax filing status is of married filing separately. For the purpose of this session, we're going to take the assumption, because they will be presented the tax filing information, if required, of married filing separately, and that's the way we're going to navigate through this prototype. But however, if they're a single, then parent 2 will not need to be included. Okay, so long as the parent that is completing this section is providing more than 51% of financial support for the student. So keep that in mind. The same case goes into divorce. If there are 2 parents not living together, they're unmarried, if they're divorced, we're just looking at whoever parent is providing more than 51% of financial support, that is the parent to complete this process. But for the nature of this session, we're continuing on as a married couple and married filing separately. So we're going to hit continue. Then the parent's information is either going to be allowed to enter again the parent forward or invite the parent number 2. We're going to hit that 1967. They're going to go that. And then we're going to enter the email address, because the parent number 1 can invite parent number 2 as a contributor. And we're going to hit that. And we're going to go ahead and hit the invitation, allow the invitation to be sent, and hit continue. Now, in this case, we're going to ask for their legal place of residence, and we're going to line it up with the student. And let's say they moved here when the student was born, the same time as the student, excuse me. Now we're going to ask additional information about the parent's finances. This is information outside of the tax information. When we say that, we mean we're asking additional benefits. Are they receiving any type of benefits and things like that? Now, There is limited functionality on this prototype, so we're just going to hit select. None of these apply, but if they do have any of these, they're going to go ahead and hit and select that particular option as well. Now we're going to ask information on about their family size, if it's different from the number of individuals that they have claimed on their 2022 tax return, because sometimes when students reach certain ages, there may be some individuals that take them off of their tax returns for various reasons. But the question is the family size different from the number of students that are entered on the tax return? Let's say this family says no. And if it is, then you want to make sure you hit yes and enter the correct number. And the same thing goes for number in college as well. How many individuals in that household, excluding the parents, will be entering college on or after July 1st of 2024? Now, keep this in mind as it pertains to the number of college. This does not have an impact on the student aid index calculation, but you should answer this as accurately as you can. Go ahead and hit continue when you're done. And then we're going to ask the same information as it pertains to the student. In this case, this parent doesn't have any of which being asked. Again, this is asking information about assets in their investments and things like that. And they're going to go ahead and hit continue. And if they receive any child support, they want the parent. This is asking about the parent number one. If they're receiving any child support for the student, they want to make sure they enter that here. And they want to hit 0, 0, and 0. Again, these are the same questions that we asked of the student pertaining to their cash checking accounts, their net worth of investments, and their net worth of the businesses if they own any. Okay. Now you want to come over here to hit continue. And then the parent can come down here and sign. But just like the student is also going to provide them information, letting them know that there was an additional contributor that you invited, and this is the information that you provided us. So in this case, to move on to signing the form, the parent's going to come down, make sure they read before they sign, check the box, and sign. And that is it for parent number one. Now, student completed their section, parent completed their section, but we're missing a third person, parent number two. Because remember, we go back to the initial beginning, dependency status. We identify the student as a dependent student. Then we looked at marital status, and now we identify the parents as being married, but their tax filing status was married filing separately. So we completed one portion as the parent number one. Now we're going to come in as parent number two. Parent number two sees the exact same invitation, letting you know we need help to complete this form. They're going to come in similar to the student and parent number one and log in. Again, if they don't see that email, they can come right to studentaid.gov, enter their email, phone number, or FSA ID username, and enter their password, and look on their dashboard and find the invitation there. Once they have accepted the invitation, they can hit continue. They'll be presented with the same information as it pertains to the student and parent number one. They'll also be asked to confirm information. So they're going to look this, just review this, make sure all of it's accurate. They're going to provide consent, because if parent number two doesn't provide consent, it will hinder the student from receiving federal financial aid eligibility. We're going to come down and hit approve. And then we're going to ask similar questions as it pertains to their investments and assets. Now, if they have any values in these screens, in these fields here, they want to make sure that they enter it, okay? But in this particular case, you're going to hit continue. They're going to take a moment before signing, and then they're going to hit continue. And then they're going to come down and sign. Now, in the previous screen, you saw that this person didn't have the box that the student and the parent number one had as it pertained to the contributor information. That's because they didn't invite anyone to provide information to the FAFSA form, nor did they have to, okay? So they just had to come in, complete their section, and sign it, and then the entire form is finally complete. At this point, what happens is the information from here is sent to us for processing. We will begin processing in the first half of March. The student will receive a confirmation email letting them know that their information has been processed and the information has been sent to the schools they indicated on the FAFSA form. That's why it's very important for students to list as many schools as they possibly can in order to make sure that they are completing that process in an adequate amount of time. Now, when understanding what kind of resources that we do have, we welcome all of you to find out more information on studentaid.gov. We do have information as it pertains to students, parents. We're on Instagram, YouTube. In fact, this video will be uploaded onto our YouTube channel at FSA Outreach within 24 hours. We have two wonderful other sessions that were conducted on a previous date that are also uploaded as we speak. So we welcome you to go to our YouTube channel and check those out. And those were presented by none other than our great Tanika Mangum. We have two other sessions coming up tomorrow, where we walk through the session as to completing the FAFSA form as an independent student. And we have another session tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on our Parents Guide to Understanding Federal Financial Aid. So we welcome you to join us in our other sessions. Welcome you to check out our various videos as it pertains to the upcoming and previous webinars. With that said, we always welcome your feedback. Please take out your phones, scan the QR code if you're able to, or go to the link that's provided just beneath that QR code. We love to hear your feedback. Leave a comment, leave a question, and we'll be happy to learn more about what your thoughts are in your particular situation. With that said, we thank you for your time and your sacrifice to joining us to learn about how to navigate this process or understand how to complete the 24-25 FAFSA form as a dependent student. Have a good night, everyone.
This concludes our webinar.
Ok, mi gente, eso fue el tercer taller de hoy día, en lo cual ustedes pudieron ver que honestamente no fue ni para acá ni para allá. Creo que estos videos lo pueden ver completamente en mi perfil de TikTok. Los he puesto en pin y los pueden ver completamente todo en español de principio a fin. Lo mismo que el señor que acaba de dar este taller habló, pero si tienen alguna cosa, o sea, acá lo pudieron ver también con la caption, todo en español. Así que de todas maneras, mi gente, el de las 8 de la noche va a estar muy bueno. Espero, realmente mis expectativas han estado muy altas, pero hasta ahorita no han podido cubrir nada. He mandado preguntas, las mismas que todos tienen. ¿Qué pasa con los padres que no tienen un número de seguro social? Y todos los problemas que existen con los padres que no tienen un número social, tampoco que pueden acceder a la invitación. Entonces, todas estas preguntas las he mandado mientras estábamos en el taller, pero ninguna de las preguntas me han respondido. O sea, completamente ignorado. O sea, sí, ignorado. Así que ¿de qué? Pero de todas maneras, mi gente, no se olviden que esta noche a las 8 de la noche estarán hablando sobre los préstamos. Y esto es muy importante porque no muchos padres entienden. Entonces, ¿qué es FAFSA? Como os dije anteriormente, si vieron todos mis videos, pueden entender mucho mejor. Pero con esto me despido de acá. Les voy a estar subiendo contenido y a las 8 de la noche me estaré conectando de la misma forma, subiéndoles toda la información que necesitan saber por mis redes sociales. Lo pueden encontrar esto también en YouTube, que estoy grabando, que es mi cuenta. Todas mis redes sociales se encuentran con la misma información, David Chico Beca. Me pueden encontrar también en Facebook, están ahí todos los videos que estoy grabando, pero esto se trata más que todo de que todos podamos agarrar las fuentes correctas y los recursos correctos, así que estaré grabando toda la información que tengamos. Pero el de las 8 de la noche será sobre préstamos, así que estaré igual grabando esta información para todos ustedes. No se olviden de compartir todo esto, los quiero mucho, bye, chaito.